Is your pancake looking like this, but you're trying to get it closer to this? Let me help you out. I'm Vera, your fat flexibility coach. February 25th is National Pancake Day, so I cannot think of a better day to work on our pancake straddle. So, when you're ready, grab your yoga blocks. If you're up to the challenge, grab some ankle weights, and we're gonna come to the mat standing. All right, to get us started, let's just start warming up our body, starting with some shoulder circles up, down, back, and around. 2 more. Last one, we are gonna switch directions, pushing it forward, down, and back. Once more. Perfect. We're gonna go straight into the hips, starting with our hip circles. So we push our hips forward, squeeze our glutes, and bring it around. Once more. We will switch directions, going the other way. Find center. Awesome. So you may want a chair or something to hold onto for balance for this one. We're going to find our balance in one leg, soft bend in the knee. Bring the other knee up, flex the foot. We're going to bring it out to the side and back. If you need to bring your foot down in between, that's totally okay. Once more, we're going to hold it out to the side. We're going to pulse that knee up as high as we can for 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring it down. Ooh, you can shake it out. We're going to move to the other leg. So again, we do have a soft bend in the supporting leg, so we're not locking that knee. We bring the other knee up, flex the foot, try and bring your knee as high up towards your hip as you can, and we bring it out to the side and back. Keep it going. Bring it out to the side. Last time, we're going to pulse up for 8, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bring it down, shake it out. Awesome. To keep waking up our hips, we're going to do some leg swings. So I'm going to turn to the side here. Again, you can hold on to something if you need some support. And we're just going to kick our foot up. And we're just going to kick our leg up 6 times forward, 6 to the side, and 6 behind us. Do not worry about how high you kick. Just try and keep a straight leg. Make sure the action is coming straight from your hip. When you're ready, let's go. Last one, to the side. 2, 1, and behind us for 6. Last one. Bring it down. We're switching sides here. So when you're ready, 6, 6, 6. Let's go. To the side. Last one. And 6 behind us. Beautiful. Bring it down, shake it out, grab some water if you need it. All right, so you may want your blocks in front of you here. We're going to do some folds. So if you're using your blocks, just have them shoulder width in front of you at whatever setting you need. Let's move into a squat. So let's actually widen our stance. Toes are going to point out to the corners of the room here. We're gonna sit our hips straight down, bending our knees. I want you to think of squeezing your butt muscles so your knees open out behind you. Hands can be to your hips, in front of you, holding on to something, whatever you need here. From here, we're gonna do some pulses. So we're gonna pulse up a little bit and lower. 8 more. Do this with control. Three, 2, 1. We're gonna hold it and we're gonna shift side to side. So just super gentle. We put a little bit more bend in one knee. Both knees are still bent though. Shimmying side to side. See if you can go a little bit lower as you do this. Really feeling the inner thighs waking up. Make sure your spine is nice and straight. Your chest is broad here. You're not leaning forward or back too much. Find center. We're going to hold for 10, 9, 8, 3, 2, 1. Bring your hands down to the floor or to your blocks. Toes can point forwards here. So here we're in our wide-legged forward fold, and let's talk a little bit about our form. So first of all, we want to think of our inner thighs squeezing together. Okay, so as if they could just... We're going to think of squeezing our glute. Our tailbone is trying to reach towards the sky. This is going to help elongate our hamstrings. We also want to think of engaging our quads. So to do this, we think of our kneecaps pulling up towards our hips. Okay, so that's just our leg engagement. Moving up closer to the shoulders, our hands are shoulder width, and they're usually start in line with our shoulders. As we feel more comfortable, we can walk our hands back closer to our legs so we can let our torso fall more. But we always have a soft bend in our elbows for whenever our torso feels comfortable to go a little bit further. So we're just going to hold here a couple more breaths. Now, we're going to move between this fold and a squat. We have 2 different options for our squats here. Option 1 is a classic squat. It's just a little bit wider stance. And then we also have our primal squat. So let's first show you our classic squat. So we're going to start bending our knees, sitting it back, lift up, and we hold. So, and very similar to a classic squat where my feet are closer together in line with my hips, it's just a wider stance here. And we're holding, chest is broad, spine is straight. We're going to take one more deep breath here. Lower your hands back down, forward fold. See if you can go a little bit further. We're going to take another couple breaths here and we're going to go again. So you can go back into that exact same squat we did. Or if you feel you have a bit more mobility in your hips and ankles, we can go into our primal squat. So when you're ready, if we're going into our primal squat, our heels come in. We sit it all the way down. Our knees are opening wide, our chest is broad, our spine is straight. We can always bring our hands into a little prayer pose to help our knees stay open. If your heels are coming off the ground, either roll up a towel, put them underneath, or go back to your wide classic squat. And if you find you're just not there yet, but you're close, put some blocks underneath your bum to raise you up a little bit, and that will help get you there. Take one more breath. Plant your hands down. Back to our fold. Awesome. We are going to do one more time. Let's check in though. Let's see if we can go a little bit further. Make sure you're squeezing your legs nice and tight. Maybe you can lower your torso a little bit closer to your legs. One more breath. And we squat it down, whatever squat you feel comfortable with right now, that will work. So as long as you're holding, you're squeezing. So we're both in both positions. We're squeezing our glutes. Our chest is trying to broaden here. Our spine is straight. The only difference is positioning of our hips and our legs. But we're breathing deeply wherever we're at. On the next exhale, we go back to our final forward fold. So bring those hands down, start lifting those hips. Final time we check in, maybe we can walk our hands a little bit closer. Maybe we can sink a little bit deeper. From here, if we're using blocks, our blocks will follow with us, but we walk our hands to one foot, either to the floor, the ankle, or we can even walk up to our shins if we didn't bring our blocks with us. We're going to slowly walk through center to the other leg. Same thing. Come back through center. We gently, gently bend our knees, set them down to the ground. All right, so let's actually start with a little quad and hip flexor stretch. So I'm actually going to come up on to my shins here. I'm going to face my side. And of course, if you have sore knees, please put something underneath your knees, like a pillow or folded up blanket. I'm pressing the tops of my feet into the ground here, and I'm going to bring my arms in front of me or to my hips. I'm going to keep my shoulder in line with my knee the entire time. So noting this is not a back bend at all. We're keeping one straight line. We're going to think of engaging our core so we can kind of feel that same sensation on the exhale, and we hold it. Still breathing, of course. We're never holding our breath here. We're going to start leaning back. Just as far as you feel comfortable, you're going to start feeling it in your quads and your hip flexors. Breathing deeply. You can think of squeezing your glutes, pushing your hips forward. We're going to come on out. Take a moment. We're going to go back into it 2 more times. When you're ready, let's get into position. And we start squeezing our core, squeezing our glutes. We lean back. Come on up. All right, take a little breather. We're going to go again. So, final time, we're going to hold it a little bit longer. When you're ready, start moving into position. Keep breathing, keep going. I know it's not the easiest. It doesn't look like we're doing much, but oh, I know we all feel it here. Slowly move up. You can sit it back, take a little breather. We're going to move into our first lunge here. We're going to move into a lizard lunge. So you may want your blocks around here. So just have them handy. You may want them on your mat already or just nearby just in case. So we're going to rise up back on our knees, step 1 foot forward, and we're going to heel toe it to the edge of our mat. So the knee is no longer in line with the hip, it's out to the side. So if I were to turn around here, classic lunge, straight in line. Our lizard is coming out to the side. So both hands can go on the inside of the leg here. So we are going to shift our hips forward. I want you to think of squeezing your glutes, squeezing your legs so you're not overstretching here. Hands can come to the inside of the foot, to blocks, or to the floor. We're starting with our foot upright and our knee upright so it's close to our shoulder. Think of squeezing it in. We're going to hold here for a couple breaths. We're going to let our big toe open out to the side. So we come to the pinky side of our foot. Our knee tracks with our big toe the entire time. So our knee is opening up now. We're still going to hold here. Now that our knee is open, we're feeling a bit more stretch in the outer hip here. We can come down to our forearms, either again still on our blocks or straight to the floor, whatever you feel comfortable with. If you want, you can stay on your hands here. And we're just holding and breathing. We're still doing active, so we're still squeezing our glutes, holding that knee open. So we're still feeling it. It's not a passive stretch where we're just letting gravity do the work. It's passive active. We're letting gravity do the work, but we're helping a little bit. And so I just want you to keep breathing. Focus on that breath. Focus on that knee opening out to the side. If you're on your forearms, gently walk it up. We're going to bring the big toe and knee back to center. Shift your hips back. Our hands are going to go on either side of the leg as we heel toe this foot towards our center so it's back in line with our hip. We can flex the foot or keep it pointed. Hands on either side. We're folding over it. Our back leg is at a nice 90-degree here, and we're doing a half split. So this is a nice hamstring stretch. We're just folding over as far as we feel comfortable, making sure you're not sitting back too much, but your hip is really in line with your knee. So if you ever need a less intense version, bring your blocks up so you're coming up more. But if you want to go more intense, you walk it out, really folding over that front leg. Okay, so you pick your poison here. And again, we're squeezing the quad. So think of the kneecap pulling up to the hip. We're squeezing really the entire leg muscles. We're even squeezing our glutes here, especially on the leg that is extended forward. Gently bring your hands back on the inside of the foot. Sweep the leg around. We can always take a nice child's pose. So big toes together, knees wide. Sit it back. And your forehead can gently rest to the ground. And slowly rise up. We're going to do the entire sequence again on the other leg. So if you need your blocks, have them handy. We're going to step the other leg forward. And again, we can start in line with our hip, but we always walk it out to the edge of our mat for lizard. We're going to shift our hips forward. So we're letting it sink. We're going to feel that in our hip flexor in the back leg. Start squeezing your glutes, squeezing your legs. Hands come on the inside of the leg. Remember, knee is pointing up to the sky. Big toe is planted still to start. And we're going to hold here. Think of the shoulder and knee squeezing together. Now we're going to start opening. So remember, big toe tracks with the knee as it opens out to the side. Think of squeezing your glute muscles, your leg muscles are all squeezing. Now, if we feel comfortable, we can walk down to our forearms or forearms to the block. Breathing nice and deep here as we hold. Keep squeezing your leg muscles. Remember, this is not just passive, but passive active. Start coming onto your hands. If you're on your forearms, bring the knee in, shift your hips back. And remember, our hands go on either side of the leg as we heel to our foot, back in towards our center in line with our hip. And we fold forward. Remember, you can always flex your foot here. It's going to be a different sensation than if you're pointing. Our back leg is a nice 90 degree. We're not sitting back too much. We're really in line with the hip and knee are together. Remember, you're not seated back too much. Your hip is in line with your knee. And you can adjust how far you want to go by, again, walking your hands up with your blocks or forgoing a block. Forgoing blocks so much that you're throwing them and you walk all the way forward. Okay, so you pick where you feel good, where you feel a nice stretch, but we do not feel pain. We never really want to feel pain. And I know a lot of people think when it comes to pancake, straddle, or middle splits, it has to involve pain, but it does not. It can be intense discomfort, but never actual pain, okay? And I really need you to take the time to try and figure out the distinction between the two because it is a thin line between them. But it's super important when it comes to flexibility that we do not feel pain when we're doing these. And if we do, we gently come out of it to avoid injury. Let's bring our hands on the inside of the leg, sweep it around. Whew. We're gonna come right on to our backs here for a little bit, and then we're gonna do maybe one or two more things, and then we're gonna get into our pancakes. All right, so I'm gonna roll all the way down to my back. My knees are up to the sky, feet are nice and planted. We're gonna do some glute bridges here, and we're gonna change it up a few times. So let's do the first two. Classic, the ones we know. Hands by our side, pushing through our shoulders and the heels of our feet. We're gonna curl our tailbone up, squeezing our glutes, lift up to our glute bridge. We're gonna hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Roll it back down. Try and get your bum to touch the ground last. Take a moment. We're going to go again. Same way. Classic glute bridge. When you're ready, start rolling it up, squeezing everything. Remember, when it comes to a bridge like this, we're squeezing the back body and elongating the front body. Slowly roll it down. This time we're going to work a little bit more on our hamstrings. So let's scooch our feet a little bit further away from our hips. Not too crazy. It's going to be too hard to get up, but just a little bit. We are going to roll back up like we did before. We're going to come on to our heels so our toes are lifted. Now we keep holding and breathing. This is going to focus a little bit more on the hamstring muscles. Keep breathing. I know it's a little bit longer than the other two. Gently roll it down. All right, final glute bridge we're doing here. We're making it a little bit different. We're gonna do a little bit of adductor, abductor work here. So what that means is we're gonna open our knees up, coming to the edges, the pinky side of our feet, and we close them. So it's very much like butterfly wings or a book, but we're gonna do this in our glute bridge. So we can bring our feet back to where they were before. And when you're ready, we start rolling up like our classic glute bridge. Our inner thighs are squeezing together. We're going to start bringing our knees apart as far as we can, keeping our hips at the same height the entire time. That's probably the hardest part here, so we bring them together and again, open. We're gonna do 5 more for each. Keep it going. Almost there. Last one. Roll it on down. Awesome work. All right. Give yourself a little breather. Do some windshield wipers so your knees fall side to side here. Come through center. All right, so here, if you have ankle weights on, good luck. If you don't, that's fine. You actually may want to create a little triangle underneath your bum, underneath your tailbone specifically, or you can grab a block and scooch it underneath your hips so your hips are a little bit higher if you need that variation. So what we're going to do is we're going to extend our legs straight up to the sky. We can point our toes or flex. It doesn't matter too much yet. We're going to open our legs out as far as we feel comfortable. We're going to drag them back together, cross at the ankles, cross the other way, and open. And again, cross, cross, open. Okay, keep it going. 3 more times. 2 more. Last one, we're going to hold it open. All right, so this is where it can get difficult because we're holding it and we want to keep it in line with our hips. So you may have to adjust a bit. Your hands can always come to the inner thigh to help it or make it a little bit harder depending on what you're doing here. You can flex your feet. And we're just holding and breathing deeply, okay? If your legs start shaking, that's good. Then you can bring your hands to the outer thigh, squeeze them together, lower, take a minute. But if you're good, you're gonna hold it with me. So I'm gonna bring my hands to my thighs, but we're breathing deeply. So if you wanted, you could always do this against a wall, and it becomes a little bit easier because, of course, your wall is there supporting you. But that's a great option if you're using ankle weights. So you still have to squeeze your legs if you're using ankle weights to be careful, but it can be a little bit helpful to have a wall there to support you rather than just kind of doing it freestyle like we're doing here. Keep breathing. I'm starting to feel it in my own legs shaking a little bit. So we're gonna do 4, 3, 2, 1. Remember, we grab to the outside, bend, bring it down. Amazing work. Let's come back up onto our bums here. So because we're here, let's come into a diamond or a butterfly shape. And we're going to do a little bit of work here, okay? So hands can be to the outside of your shins, to the floor around you, okay? Think of a straight spine to start. We're going to start squeezing our glutes. Our feet are going to think of flexing and opening up like a book. So that's going to help our knees open up a bit too. So I want you to have your hands in front, again, to the shins, ankles, or the floor, and start driving your chest forward as we're still thinking of opening up our knees. Slowly release and bounce your knees a little bit here. We're gonna go again. So hands to wherever you need them right now. You can even bring blocks in front of you too. Start flexing your feet, opening your knees up. Remember, we're not actually pushing on our knees. This is pure active work here, okay? Nothing passive about it. We're holding it down, start bringing your chest forward. So you're thinking of a straight spine, you're not rounding here. You're really pushing your chest forward, opening it up. And let's gently release. Amazing. We are going to swing around. We're going to do some pigeon pose work. So you may want your blocks around, and you may actually want to grab a strap for this next stuff. Okay, so as an optional, you may or may not need it. But let's get into position. We're going to just start on our shins. All right, so I actually find it always really awkward to get into pigeon pose unless we're doing it from a downward dog. But we're not going to do that from a downward dog today. So we're going to kind of do it from a weird little tabletop-ish position. So I'm going to bring my hands forward. I'm going to let my left knee shoot forward, and I'm going to internally rotate it as I lift my back knee up. So my left ankle is crossing in front of my right hip, and I can adjust my back leg, walk my hands up, and that's how we're going to get into our pigeon. I'm going to scoot forward a bit, so I'm actually on my mat. All right, so for this pigeon pose, let's point out a couple things if we need them. A block is always nice underneath the hip that is up if we find it's too unbalanced. We can have our hands in front of us again to blocks if we would like. We are actually going to keep all of our hands to the floor here in front of us. And I want you to adjust your weight balance. So I want it in between both your hips. So you may have to adjust by shifting your weight a little bit more to one side in one hand than the other to counterbalance it, okay? So we're just gonna hold here for a bit. If you want, you can come down to your forearms for this one, okay? And we're just gonna hold and breathe. So if you wanna add a little bit extra, you don't have to. You can stay exactly in your pigeon pose as you are. But if you want to, you can kick up your back foot, either grabbing a strap or using your hand, reaching around to that foot, squaring your shoulders back forward, and we hold. So just another extra little quad stretch. So you do not have to do this if you don't want to. You can just stay in your classic pigeon, okay? So we're just gonna hold here for another couple breaths. We're going to very gently release if we had our hold to our back foot, and we're going to shift our weight to that front hip to swing around, bringing our knees up, feet out in front of us here. We can do some nice little windshield wipers from seated, bringing both knees down and switching. Come through center. We're going to swing around. We're going to do that same sequence again on the other side. So if you do want to go into pigeon pose from your downward facing dog, you're more than welcome to. I'm just not really into downward dog today. So I'm going to come into a weird little tabletop, shift my right knee forward, lift up my back leg to cross my right ankle in front of my left hip, and I shift it back. Okay, I readjust, find my positioning. If I want that block under my hip, I place it there. And we have our hands in front of us on the floor or to blocks and balancing out our weight a bit. Okay, once you feel you're nice and balanced, you can always come down to your forearms here if you would like, or stay on your hands or to your blocks. So we're feeling this nice stretch all through the outer hip, which is a great stretch for our straddle that is soon to come. So if you want now, you can stay in this pigeon pose. Or if you want to add a little spice, you're going to kick up the back foot using a strap or reaching around with your hand. You're going to grab on, square your shoulders back forward, pulling that heel towards your bum, squeezing, and we hold, okay? Breathing deeply wherever you're at. We're going to very gently release the back foot. And wherever we're at, we're going to gently lower ourselves onto that front hip, swing around, knees up. We can do some windshield wipers again. Perfect. Let's swing around to face each other. We're going to come into a wide V shape. All right, so we're in our V shape, but we can definitely go wider because of all those stretches we were just doing. So let's manually kind of adjust our legs here as wide as we can to start. Okay. Of course, if our hamstrings feel tight, sit on those blocks or grab a pillow, raising your hips higher up, okay? I am going to start by just pointing my toes. I'm going to have one hand behind me, one hand in front. I'm going to shimmy my hips forward, trying to keep my feet planted. Okay, so I didn't go far, but just enough to get that little extra half degree into my hips here. So hands in front, we're just going to start rolling forward and back to find our sits bones. So our sits bones are two little bony ridges in our hips that are basically right where our femurs, our thigh bones, connect into. So you're going to find them when you're leaning forward a little bit, and they feel like two little bony plates. You're sitting straight on them, and that's what we want. If you can't find them, that is okay. It does take some time. I know I couldn't find mine at first, but you are leaning forward just a teeny bit here. Okay. I want you to start squeezing your quad. So again, kneecap towards your hips, squeezing your glutes. And so when you're squeezing your glutes, you're actually forcing a little bit of external rotation of your thighs, which is what we want. That means our knees are pointing straight up to the sky. We don't want them rolling forward when we go into these straddles at all, unless we were doing a middle split, which then it's a different story. But for this one, not what we want. So we are going to start with a little bit of a lateral flow here. So I'm going to have one hand in front, other hand overhead for a little bit of a side bend. I'm making sure my top shoulder is not rolling forward, but opening up to be more in line with my ear here. Take another big breath. We're going to rotate. We can always adjust the belly if we have one to forward fold over this front leg. Think heart to knee rather than nose to knee, because I don't want you rounding. I want you lengthening. From here, we're going to start walking our hands to center. So for this one, we're not worrying about how far we go. I want you to think of a nice straight spine. And you can gently start walking your hands forward, just little bit by little bit. Consider it our first one. Here, we can focus on our thighs. So we still want to squeeze our glutes to make sure our knees are pointing up to the sky. And our chest is broadening, spine is straight. Let's slowly walk our hands to the other leg. Again, if you have to adjust your belly, you can. We're doing heart to knee here. And let's slowly rotate into our side bend on the other side. So we're getting a little bit of length in the side body, which is going to be great when we want to go further into a flatter back for our pancake. And let's push up. Awesome. Okay, we're gonna adjust our hips again. So let's bring one hand behind us, one hand in front. See if we can shimmy our hips a little bit farther forward. Perfect. All right, we're gonna go into our second straddle here, and we're gonna switch it up a little bit. So when you're ready, I want you to start with a nice straight spine, hands in front. I want you to start walking it forward super slow. All right, so as we're walking forward, I want you to think of your bum trying to reach the sky behind you. And we're still squeezing everything, so the knees are still pointing up. I want you to go a little bit further, and I want you to see if you feel comfortable to lower your elbows to the ground. Okay, so even if your elbows to the ground, we're still trying to lengthen our spine, pulling our chest forward here. And we're gonna breathe and hold wherever we're at. From here, we're gonna walk our hands to a little bit halfway between our foot and our center. Still squeezing your legs, do not let them go. And we're gonna walk to the other side. Come back to center. See if you can go a little bit further. Again, we think of our bum reaching the sky behind us, and our knees are still trying to touch the sky, point to the sky, so we're still squeezing our glutes. Slowly walk yourself back up. You can release your legs. Don't leave the position, just release the squeezing action. Take a breath. We're gonna go again. We're gonna do this 2 more times. We're gonna hold it a little bit longer each time. I know, but this is how we're gonna get there, okay? So if you feel comfortable, you either moving your legs or again, one hand behind, one hand in front. We're gonna shift, see if we can widen our straddle a little bit more. All right, when you're ready, start squeezing those legs nice and tight. We're gonna start walking our hands forward. I want you to see how far you can go this time. So again, even if you're not that far, even if you're just here, but you're focusing on a straight back, that's amazing. That's all I want you to do. If you feel comfortable to keep walking forward, I want you to think on the exhale, squeezing and walking those fingers a little bit further out. Again, if you feel comfortable to lower your forearms down, please do. We're breathing deeply. This is not an easy pose to hold. So just keep breathing. Remember, if you feel pain, that's when you're going to want to get out of it. But if you just feel discomfort, that's okay. We're just breathing, we're holding. Okay? Keep going. See if your body wants to sink a little bit further again on the exhale. I'm going to take one more deep breath here. Slowly, slowly walk it back. Release your legs. Let them relax for a moment. Whew. Amazing job. We're going to do it one more time. We're going to see if we can go a little bit further. So again, if you want to see if you can adjust your hips, especially when we're doing this, our hips will open up over time the more we condition it. So, maybe your hips open an extra degree here if we go. Okay, let's see. All right, that's as far as I'm going for this one today. And remember, before we go into this next one, remember your body changes every single day and it's super dependent on your stress levels and your rest levels, okay? So if you didn't sleep that much, or you're having a stressful day, or maybe you worked out a lot the day before, your body is probably not going to go to 100% versus other days when you're very rested and you had a simpler day the day before and it wasn't too stressful. Okay, so please be mindful and do not beat yourself up if you're not as far as you normally are, or if you thought you could go farther and you didn't. Okay, it's all a process. All right, so we're going to go into it our final time. This time we're going to start with a nice big inhale. We're going to exhale it forward. Hands to the ground first. We start adjusting, squeezing your legs, walking it forward as far as you feel comfortable. Remember, tailbone trying to reach the sky here to go a little bit further, closer to the ground. Keep breathing. We're going to go for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly, slowly walk it back out. Ooh. Using your hands, bring your legs closer together. You can lean back a bit. Ooh. All right, you can shake it out a little bit. Just let them rotate in and out. Super tiny windshield wipers here. Okay, we did a lot of work on the outer hip, inner thigh area just now, especially in that straddle. It does take a lot of work. So be gentle to your body, okay? Shake it out. We can even go into our butterfly here. And just bouncing your knees super gently up and down. Keeping your legs here or crossing them. We're gonna sit up nice and tall, arms overhead, nice big inhale. Exhale. One final time, inhale up. And exhale. Beautiful job today. Amazing job today. Of course, pancakes and straddles are not always the easiest because of the muscles we have to use for them, but I'm sure you did a wonderful job and I hope you're proud of yourself and your progress. Of course, drink some water, get some rest, maybe have some actual pancakes, and I will see you on the mat soon again.